Welcome to the Singers with Wings experience.
Wings, fly with me, won't you?
Happy New Year. 2022 is finally here. It's finally begun. I want to wish you guys a happy and prosperous New Year. We got a couple of things to discuss that took place on Twitter between one Tony Khan and Big Swole. And this shit got heated real quick, real fucking fast. Those two had a war of words. And neither of them didn't hold back any fucking punches. They took huge jabs at one another. So we're going to go over that, and we're going to discuss that. And I'm going to give my thoughts on it. My perspective. But there's a lot that we have to get into. So, Big Swole basically announced on November 30th that she had left AEW. And it was an explosive interview with Colin's show. And so this is what she said. She said, and I quote, "Outside of lack of structure, their biggest issue, which is diversity. I do not beat around the bush when it comes to diversity in my people. There is no representation, truly, and when there is, it does not come across in the black community as genuine at all. I don't know why everybody is so afraid to accept it or say it, but it is not a good look. What happens is you have this wonderful company that treats people like family, but there is nobody that looks like me that's represented at the top and in the room with them. They're not helping to necessarily influence the decisions, but to explain why certain slang and certain words shouldn't be used. Shouldn't be said. There is no one else who can explain our culture and experience except for us," she said. And she was talking to Fightful. So let's dissect this first. So she is correct when she says there's no one at the top. And I agree. There's no one at the top that's a wrestler that's in a prominent spot on television. It's not Will Hobbs. It's not Scorpio Sky. It's no one that they've, used. And they haven't really had a black champion. So there is one massive flaw with AEW because Tony Khan doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know who he wants to really actually push. The fact that Will Hobbs is where he's at is a fucking travesty. That man should be treated like how Big E is. And I'm talking about serious how Big E should be treated. Will Hobbs is money. Will Hobbs should already be a champion. Will Hobbs can go. Will Hobbs looks like a wrestler. That's why I like Will Hobbs. Brian Cage, same thing. The wrestling business is about making money. It's about producing larger-than-life characters and writing interesting and captivating storylines that we can sink our fucking teeth into. Not this fucking indie garbage bullshit that perpetuates the wrestling business today. That's destroying the wrestling business today. So she is correct on that. Also, when she's talking about at the top, she means also as writers. You need to have writers. Tony Khan can't book everything. Tony Khan can't write everything for everybody. You have to have a team, a said team, whether it be a team of 5, 10, 15, or whatever. You need to have a set of writers. I would say if I were personally running AEW, I would have about maybe 20 writers that knew the wrestling business inside and out. Because you have to be able to write for people. Everyone is not a good promo. So she's correct. And you have to have more than just 2 people at the helm, Tony Khan and Megan. That doesn't mean anything. When we're talking about at the top, you need to have tons of people around you that look different from you. So you can learn from different cultures and perspectives of people. And not this fucking tribalistic bullshit that they've had us in for years. Regardless of quote-unquote race. Moving on. Quote, I knew something was up when my daughter, who loves watching wrestling, she would watch AEW all the time and seldomly watch WWE. She's not a big fan unless Dad, aka Cedric Alexander, was on TV, which stopped happening after they botched the Hurt Business. She would say, Mommy, there's no one that looks like me on AEW. There's nobody that looks like Daddy. Then she started watching WWE because she saw Bianca and Big E. She saw herself represented. If that wasn't a click, you're absolutely right. I don't have an explanation. It's 2022. I mean, my bad, 2021. Why are people saying it'll take 3 years for AEW to have a black champ? This is a scripted sport. It shouldn't take that long. If you have been watching WWE for 50 plus years, you know what not to do, she said. So she is correct in that regard. Where AEW, their problem is they tried to be this progressive SJW wrestling company, which they're not. They say one thing, they do another. They have this do as I say, not as I do mentality. And that's how it's always been. And like I said before, she's correct when she says it's a scripted sport. You need to have writers. They should have already had a black champion. Whether it be, your women's division, whether it be in your tag division. Well, I think Scorpio Sky was that, but that was under the Freebird rule. So kind of like the New Day. So there was that. So that doesn't really technically count. AEW World Champion, that's not going to happen because, you don't have enough indie cred. But, I mean, that shouldn't matter. It shouldn't. But it shouldn't take 3 years. When All Elite Wrestling, when they were an entity, when it became a living, breathing entity, they didn't need to go the route that they're going now with this indie bullshit. They didn't. Will Hobbs is somebody that should have actually realistically been the first ever TNT champion and not Cody Rhodes. Why? I don't care. We understand why it happened from a business perspective, but I'm saying Hobbs is marketable. Hobbs is somebody who looks like a fucking wrestler. That's what wrestling is about. Wrestling is about making money. Wrestling is about creating larger than life characters and creating storylines that are captivating, that actually make shit matter, and not putting on these fucking 5-star classic bullshit that we see all the time. That's not important. And it was a travesty that Swole was on Dark so much. And I feel like now that Big Swole is gone, I feel like she'll go to Impact. Swole is somebody that should go to Impact. People have to realize Impact has one of the best women's divisions out. They've always had a stacked women's division roster. And I think that if Big Swole were to go to a Impact or a MLW or something like that, I think she would do just fine. See, this is a problem. This has become a problem because of the fact of the matter is Tony Khan, his stupid dumbass, does not understand that you have to not have so much talent on your roster. You can't have a bloated roster. Your roster cannot be bloated. You can't have 120 something wrestlers or 140 something wrestlers and then bring in X, Y, and Z, and then A, B, C, D, and E, and F, and G, and all that. You have to have a quota of wrestlers that you're going to use and push. You cannot bring in all of these wrestlers. You can't do it. Because eventually they're not going to get used and they're going to get frustrated. Like Big Swole was frustrated. You have to have plans in place. And a lot of people, they talk shit about Vince and Nick Khan for getting rid of all the talent that they got rid of over the past 2 years. It's a business, people. It's a business. You can't have plans. How in the hell are you going to have plans for over, let's just say, a roster of 180 to 200 people? How in the fuck are you going to have plans for all those people? You can't. There's no way. You can't run a promotion like that. How in the fuck could you write for 180 people or 200 people? You can't do it. You would have to have several writing teams of at least 20 to 30 people on each team to come up with something. People just don't get it. They don't get it. And then she goes on to say, shoving more money doesn't keep a person happy. Facts. We've seen time and time again, especially in a place where there is not enough space. There's no writers in a sense. And that's what I just said before. Tony Khan needs to actually hire a team of writers. I would say at least about maybe 20 writers at best, and see what they can come up with. People who actually know the industry and that can come up with creative ideas versus trying to be this one-man wrecking crew, play Booker over here, play President over here. You can't do it all. You cannot. You have to have a team around you to be able to get the shit done. It's a business. Not everyone is comfortable writing their own things. Closed mouths don't get fed. That's exactly what that environment is. If you are shy and don't know how to write or are not creative, it's not going to work unless they want it to work for you. That's one of the biggest issues, she said. And I agree with that. And there again, that's why you have to have a writing team around you. You have to have a writing team around you. If you don't, people get lost into the shuffle. AEW, let's just be honest, most of their roster can't cut promos. Not very well, except for, obviously, the veterans. Obviously, your CM Punks, your Danielsons, your Adam Coles. Those guys can cut promos. Your Moxleys. That's what people have to understand. This is where you have to have a team around you at all times. And that's basically all she said. But I do agree with her statements. I do. Because I feel like the problem is that AEW, they don't know how to create stars. They need to be able to create mainstream stars that can cross over from wrestling into something else. To be able to get a mainstream feel of the product. You can't do it. They can't do it. It's because they've listened to these stupid, brain-dead, retarded, low IQ smarks. That's who they've listened to. That's their fan base. It's these hardcore neckbeards that want these long, drawn-out 20-minute matches with, no story involved. Wrestler A versus Wrestler B for no reason. There needs to be actual long-term storytelling in AEW. AEW has a problem of that. They do. They have so many stop and start feuds, it's unreal. Now we're going to get into Tony Khan's, what he said. I'm getting to what he said. He actually tweeted. And I'm glad that Big Swole actually made this statement. I'm glad she did. I'm glad because it needs to happen. This needed to happen because of the fact of what Tony Khan did, of what he said last night on Twitter. It was a fucking disgrace. Dude, calm the fuck down, my nigga. You are a billionaire. Act like it. Would Vince act like this? No. Act like it. This is a business, my dude. This is a business. You are a billionaire. You are a billionaire. Learn to have some class. Learn to have some class. Trying to find that tweet, if it's still there. Shit. Fuck. Oh, there it is. I found it. Okay. So, Tony Khan tweeted out. He said, the top two at AEW execs are Brown, me, and Mega. Jade, Bowens, Caster, Dante, Nyla, Isaiah, Mark Quinn, all won on TV this month. The TBS tournament has been very diverse. I let Swole's contract expire because I felt her wrestling wasn't good enough. End quote. Hashtag AEW Rampage, Street Fight tonight. All those guys that you named are jobbers. Martin is a jobber. He's just a spot monkey. He's no different than Ricochet. Caster, you basically fucked him over after what he did, which is to get actual fucking heel heat. He got that. You're like, no, we can't do that here, guys. We can't do that here. We're progressive, guys. We're progressive. We can't do that here. You're completely misusing Private Party. You're doing nothing with Proud and Powerful. Like, they're Jericho's lackeys, and I feel bad for them. I hope that they'll get some saving grace by maybe turning on Jericho and forming a new version of LAX with Kingston. So that would be smart, but I doubt that will happen, though. And Nyla is a straight-up jobber anyway. So, yeah, I mean, you know, that was great with what Big Swole said. And believe it or not, I'm glad this took place because I want to know now who else on the roster is feeling like this. Who else is feeling frustrated? Even though Swole has been let go, who else is feeling like this? Not only that, who else is going to jump ship? I don't mean going to WWE. I'm talking about going to like MLW, Impact, New Japan, just different places. GCW. I mean, I'm predicting that Brian Cage will leave. I'm predicting that Will Hobbs will leave. Private Party, they'll leave. These people that really aren't getting used and that they don't have plans for, and they're shoved on Dark or Dark Elevation, a lot of people are going to leave. I wouldn't be shocked. That's why I feel like AEW 2022 for them is going to be a trying year for them because so many guys and girls are going to want to jump ship, especially if you're not getting used. That's why most of these guys have to work the indies. That's why all these guys have to work the indies. If they weren't working the indies, they're not really getting much of anything. Unless you're a top guy. Unless you're like the Moxies of the world, the Jerichos of the world. Actual, top guys that they're using. Moxley, Omega, the EVPs, Adam Cole. I mean, AEW has a lot of fucking work to do. They have a lot of work to do. And I, for one, am glad this happened because it needed to happen. To let these smarks know, hey, this shit stinks. I knew this would happen. I knew this would eventually, in due time, happen. And I'm glad it did. I'm glad it did. I want AEW to succeed. I want them to succeed. I want them to succeed. I want the WWE to succeed. I want all of pro wrestling to get better. But it can't. Because everyone is such a fucking mark for themselves. And AEW's biggest problem is who? Tony Khan. The man can't keep his fucking mouth shut. Learn to keep your mouth shut on Twitter, my dude. Keep your mouth shut. So on that note, thank you guys for watching. Please hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe for more videos. I will be reviewing day 1. That will be up tomorrow sometime. Once again, Happy New Year. I'm back. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Deuces. Stay safe.
To the